On a clear afternoon in 1948, a pilot's watch stopped forever at exactly 3:18 p.m. This wasn't a mechanical failure, but the final heartbeat of a chase that would haunt military history. Welcome to the fog of war, where reality and the unexplained blur at 30,000 feet. Our story begins at Godman Army Airfield, a strategic site nestled right next to Fort Knox, Kentucky. It was 1948, a year that would become synonymous with the infamous Mantell UFO incident. The day started normally until control tower operators spotted something impossible shimmering in the blue sky. High above the airfield, a bright, unidentified object hung in the air, defying every known explanation. Tower personnel watched in disbelief as the mysterious craft maintained a steady position at heading 220 degrees. The report rippled through the base, marking the beginning of an encounter that remains legendary today. What could be so massive it was visible from over 150 miles away? Captain Thomas F. Mantell, a seasoned pilot, was soon directed to investigate the strange aerial visitor. In his powerful P-51 Mustang, Mantell began a pursuit that would lead him into the unknown. He was like a moth circling a flame, unaware that his curiosity would soon consume him. As the veteran pilot climbed higher, the tension in the Godman control tower became almost unbearable. Witnesses watched the P-51 Mustang push toward the heavens, chasing a target that refused to be identified. Why was such a skilled pilot risking everything to catch a glimpse of the seemingly impossible? Somewhere in the thin air, the pursuit turned tragic, and the hunter suddenly became the victim. Captain Mantell's aircraft eventually plummeted, crashing into the earth and ending his life in an instant. When rescuers reached the wreckage, they found his watch frozen at the moment of impact, 3:18 p.m. The tragic death of Captain Mantell sent shockwaves through the military and ignited a nationwide mystery. Some suggested it was a classified Skyhook balloon, but the witnesses on the ground remained unconvinced. Others whispered about a stationary cube or advanced craft arriving from beyond our earthly atmosphere. This encounter near Fort Knox remains a somber reminder of the risks taken in the face of mystery. The loss of life that afternoon changed how the world viewed the secrets lurking above our heads. To understand how Captain Mantell fell from the sky, we must examine the ground he protected. Decades after Mantell, I found myself walking the same soil, unaware of the shadows that lingered there. I didn't choose this path. The Army decided my fate through a sudden, unexpected change in orders. I was leaving the familiar pines of North Carolina for a destination shrouded in far more mystery. My assignment was a massive military installation that held secrets buried within its ancient soil. Before the strangeness began, I was stationed at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, focused on my daily duties. As a trained radio operator, my entire life revolved around signals, frequencies, and the clarity of sound. My communications months meant I was paid to listen closely for things that others might easily miss. I understood the technical language of the airwaves, never expecting to hear whispers from the shadows. Orders eventually came down, reassigning me to Fort Campbell, a sprawling base located in the Kentucky wilderness. My new post was situated in the Kentucky wilderness, 130 miles southwest of Fort Knox. This base wasn't just another post. It was a place where history and high strangeness often collided. I arrived as a communications expert, thinking I knew exactly how the physical world really worked. Fort Campbell sits on the border, a massive fortress guarding more than just tactical military secrets. Is it possible for a specific landscape to have a long, haunting memory for the truly strange? The base is positioned within a 130-mile stretch of land that frequently appears in anomalous reports. Long before my arrival, this region was already infamous for encounters that defied all logical explanation. In 1955, the surrounding area became the center of a terrifying legend known as the Kentucky Goblins. Local families reported small, metallic creatures descending upon farmhouses, sparking a night of pure, unadulterated terror. These accounts weren't just folklore, they were documented events that left the entire community shaken for decades. The very history of this soil seemed soaked in the echoes of visitors from somewhere else. While my primary training was in communications, I eventually chose a secondary path with the military police. This shift from radio towers to patrol units allowed me to see the base through different eyes. As an MP, I was tasked with guarding the perimeter and responding to calls at night. It was during these lonely patrols that the routine of military life began to fray. We spent much of our time in the range area, a vast, desolate territory called the Back 40. In the Back 40, the familiar structure of the Army ends and the true weirdness begins. It is a place of silent woods and empty fields where the atmosphere feels heavy and expectant, like a radio tuned between stations. I started catching signals from a reality I didn't recognize. I walked the same ground near Godman Army Airfield, realizing that some shadows never truly leave. They call the range area the Back 40, where routine military life ends and the weirdness begins. Deep within the military archives of Fort Campbell, a bizarre investigation began long before my time. It was 1955 when a terrifying series of events gripped the region near the Kentucky border. Locals reported small, strange creatures emerging from the darkness, sparking what became known as the Kentucky Goblin story. These sightings weren't just folklore, they were strange enough to catch the attention of the high command. In response to the growing panic, an official security detail was organized to investigate the claims. 4 seasoned Army police officers were pulled from their routine duties at Fort Campbell for this mission. These men left the safety of the base to face reports of high strangeness deep in the countryside. They moved beyond the familiar ranges of the Back 40 into a landscape of unexplained terror. This investigation proves that the military took these anomalies seriously decades before the modern era began. While the Mantell UFO incident haunted the skies, these officers searched for something grounding on the earth. Their dispatch remains a curious footnote in the long, strange history of this massive military installation. Official records describe a night where logic failed and the boundaries of our reality seemed to blur. To understand my own experience, we must look back at these 4 officers sent out in 1955. They were soldiers trained for combat, yet they were walking into a situation no manual could explain. The silence of the Kentucky woods held secrets that would haunt the base's reputation for years. Even as pilots chased a stationary cube or metallic crafts, these men tracked something much more grounded. Their mission wasn't to fight a war, but to document the impossible events unfolding in the shadows. Every report filed by that security detail added another layer to the mystery surrounding Fort Campbell's land. The Kentucky Goblins were just the beginning of a pattern that would eventually cross my path. This official history of investigating the unknown validates the strange shadows I would later encounter myself. Fresh from a deployment to Honduras in December 1986, I returned to a chilly Fort Campbell. In the early months of 1987, the Kentucky sky revealed something that defied all logical explanation. It started with the rhythmic thrum of Chinook helicopters flying in a tight, military formation. But my attention was pulled toward a massive, transparent cube tilted perfectly on its bottom corner. No wings, no visible engines, and no blinking lights broke the surface of this strange, geometric craft. From where I stood, the object appeared the size of a large marble held at arm's length. A soft, white light emanated from its interior, shining through the cube's eerie, transparent outer shell. Though distant, the object appeared significantly larger than the heavy Chinook helicopters trailing behind it. I noticed a mysterious reddish-orange glow begin to pulse from the very bottom corner of the cube bay. This unsettling light flickered in steady, 5-second intervals, like a heartbeat from another world. The massive cube bay remained perfectly stationary, hanging in the air without any signs of swaying or drift. Then, in a sudden move that ignored gravity, the object shot across the vast Kentucky sky. It covered at least a mile in just seconds, resembling a cursor moving on a screen. There was no buildup of speed, only an instantaneous shift from one location to the next. The pursuing Chinook helicopters banked hard, struggling to keep up with the object's impossible new position. How does something the size of a building move a mile in the blink of an eye? Why were those Chinooks pursuing a craft that they clearly had no hope of ever catching? This wasn't the Mantell UFO incident, yet it felt like the same shadows had finally returned. Those heavy military birds were chasing a ghost that could effortlessly outrun the very laws of physics. The silence of the afternoon was broken only by the fading thrum of the retreating helicopters. I realized then that some secrets of the Back 40 are far more than just military legends. That transparent cube remained a haunting reminder of the unknown forces operating above our heads. My 1987 stationary cube was a mystery, but for Thomas Mantell, the mystery was a death sentence. The events began on the afternoon of January 7, 1948, over the skies of Godman Army Airfield. Local Kentucky Highway Patrol officers quickly confirmed they were seeing a strange, unidentified object in the sky. Their reports added a layer of undeniable reality to the growing panic at Godman Army Airfield. More than 24 military personnel stationed at nearby installations like Fort Campbell reported seeing the mysterious object. The object was so massive that some witnesses could see it clearly from over 150 miles away. Captain Thomas F. Mantell, a veteran Kentucky National Guard pilot, was only 25 years old that day. He led a flight of 4 P-51 Mustangs to intercept the unknown visitor high above the Kentucky soil. As the pursuit intensified, 3 of the 4 pilots were forced to break away from the formation. These pilots faced critical issues with fuel or lacked the necessary oxygen equipment for such high altitudes. Mantell pushed forward alone, even though his P-51 Mustang was not equipped with the vital oxygen system. At 15,000 feet, he radioed that the object was moving at 180 miles per hour, half his speed. Like a sailor chasing a siren into the deep, he was unaware his precious air was running out. What drives a 25-year-old pilot to ignore every safety protocol in the book while chasing the unknown? At 3:15 p.m., Mantell made his final, frantic radio transmission to the controllers at Godman Army Airfield. He reported the object had doubled its speed, now racing across the sky at 360 miles per hour. In those final moments, Mantell stated he was climbing to 20,000 feet to close the distance. Did he suddenly black out from hypoxia, or was he pulled up by unseen, terrifying force? The pursuit ended in tragedy when his plane spiraled down and crashed violently into the Kentucky ground. As we saw before, his watch stopped at 3:18 p.m., marking the exact moment of the impact. The most chilling detail was that the cockpit remained sealed tight even after the devastating impact. Some theorists later suggested the object might have been a secret Skyhook balloon, but many questions remain. From Lockborne Air Force Base to the Back 40, the legend of this tragic encounter still haunts Kentucky. The cockpit latches were still locked when they found him. He never even tried to get out. When the dust settled at the crash site, the official paper trail began to weave a very different story. The Air Force offered a quick answer, suggesting the pilot died while chasing the bright planet Venus. Is it easier to believe a seasoned pilot died chasing a distant planet in broad daylight? Soon, a new explanation emerged involving a classified Navy project known as the Skyhook weather balloon. In 1948, these massive Skyhook balloons were part of a secret program hidden from the public eye. Imagine a giant silver bag stretching over 100 feet in diameter, drifting through the thin atmosphere. These experimental crafts could reach staggering altitudes of over 60,000 feet, far above normal flight. On that fateful afternoon in January, a balloon was confirmed released from Clinton County Airport in Ohio. Official reports concluded this specific balloon drifted 250 miles southwest toward the incident site. It seems like a simple answer, yet the eyewitness accounts from Godman Army Airfield tell another story. Colonel H. Hicks, the commanding officer on duty, watched the mysterious object with his own eyes. He stood firmly by his observation that the object remained completely stationary for 94 minutes. Can a drifting balloon really hang perfectly still while a pilot pushes his P-51 Mustang to death. Trying to explain away a freight train by calling it a stray cat is a difficult stretch. Why was the Skyhook program kept so secret if it was just a harmless weather monitoring tool? The mystery deepens when we consider why a professional pilot would fail to recognize a common balloon. If the object was stationary near Fort Campbell, the official drift patterns simply do not make sense. Even back then, people wondered if the government was covering up a much more chilling encounter. The Mantell UFO incident became a cornerstone of doubt, fueling decades of questions about the official truth. Every official report seemed designed to close the case, yet every answer only opened new doors. Between Lockborne Air Force Base and the Kentucky border, the truth remained just out of reach. While the Skyhook was a secret back then, the math doesn't quite add up to this tragedy. We are left to ponder if the sky held a secret that no official report could explain. The shadows over the back 40 weren't just in the grass, they were high in the clouds. As investigations continued, the distance between the government's truth and the pilot's reality only grew. Beneath the official reports lay a classified project that would redefine the Mantell UFO incident forever. This was the Navy Skyhook program, a secret operation hidden from public view in early 1948. While the world watched the skies in fear, military scientists were launching giants into the stratosphere. These Navy Skyhook balloons were massive structures, unlike anything civilians or pilots had ever seen before. At full expansion, a single Skyhook balloon could reach a staggering diameter of 100 feet. Imagine a translucent sphere as wide as a multi-story building drifting silently through the upper atmosphere. These gargantuan balloons were designed to reach extreme altitudes that seemed impossible for the era. Technical records confirm that Skyhook balloons could climb to heights of well over 60,000 feet. From the ground at Godman Army Airfield, such an object would look like a tiny, frozen star. The commander at the airfield reported a stationary object, a detail that complicates the official balloon theory. On the afternoon of January 7, 1948, the Navy confirmed a balloon release from Ohio. The launch took place at Clinton County Airport, miles away from the chaos unfolding in Kentucky. This specific timing aligns perfectly with the window when Mantell first spotted the mysterious silver object. Yet, the technical reality of a drifting balloon clashes with eyewitness reports of a controlled craft. Could a 100-foot balloon truly stay stationary against the high-altitude winds of the Kentucky sky? The data provides a chilling contrast between the military's secret technology and the pilot's fatal pursuit. While the Skyhook program was a reality, its presence above Fort Campbell remains a point of contention. High-altitude physics might explain the visual mystery, but they cannot silence the lingering doubts of history. We are left to weigh the classified specifications against the desperate testimony of those on the ground. The technical truth of the Skyhook program only deepens the shadows surrounding that cold January afternoon. The mystery of the Mantell UFO incident didn't end in Kentucky. It simply moved 300 miles northeast. While the military was still processing the crash, another anomaly appeared near Lockborne Air Force Base in Ohio. This new sighting occurred 50 miles northeast of Clinton County Airport, far from the tragedy at Godman. At 7:25 p.m., hours after Mantell's watch stopped, the sky over Ohio began to glow. Observers first spotted the strange, unidentified craft just 5 miles southwest of the busy airbase. Air traffic controller Alex Budrow stared in disbelief at a target that defied every known flight pattern. Joining him was Albert Pickering, a 26-year-old control tower operator who watched the horizon with intensity. In the air, Captain Charles McGee observed the object directly from his aircraft cockpit near the base. Frank Issel, a 25-year-old airways operator, stood stunned as the impossible light danced across the clouds. The object was initially reported hanging perfectly stationary at an altitude of 3,000 feet. Moments later, it surged upward with incredible power to reach a new height of 10,000 feet. It hung there like a spotlight with solid mass, preparing to execute a terrifying mechanical display. The craft began tracing a perfect circle in the sky, maintaining a precise 2-mile diameter. Completing the 6-mile circumference required a level of control that surpassed any contemporary aviation technology. Witnesses were stunned when the craft finished each massive lap in only 30 to 40 seconds. Such a feat required the unknown craft to reach an estimated speed of 500 miles per hour. If Mantell chased a balloon, what was circling the Lockborne base at such an impossible velocity? A luminous tail followed the craft, stretching 5 times the length of its own massive diameter. How do you explain an object with a tail 5 times its own length performing such maneuvers? The erratic display continued until 8 o'clock, when the object finally vanished from the Ohio sky. Witnesses at Lockborne watched in silence as the mechanical impossibility defied every law of known physics. Unlike the stationary cube at Fort Campbell, this object moved with a predatory and highly calculated intent. These speed calculations proved that no Skyhook balloon or conventional aircraft could match its erratic path. The incident left seasoned operators questioning everything they knew about the safety of American sovereign airspace. Lockborne proved that whatever this was, it wasn't a singular event, it was a visitation. While the tragedy unfolded near Godman Army Airfield, another mystery haunted Lockborne Air Force Base that same day. Separated by 300 miles, these two military sites witnessed events that defied every known law of physics. At Lockborne, personnel watched in disbelief as an unidentified craft performed maneuvers no human pilot could survive. The object didn't just hover, it moved with a terrifying precision that mocked conventional aviation technology of 1948. Observers tracked the craft as it carved perfect, erratic circles through the cold Ohio sky with impossible ease. Each of these massive loops maintained a consistent diameter of exactly 2 miles across the horizon. This wasn't the slow, predictable drift of a Skyhook balloon drifting aimlessly on the high-altitude winds. Calculations performed by ground observers revealed a speed that was truly staggering for any aircraft of that era. The mysterious visitor completed its 6-mile circumference in a breathtaking span of only 30 to 40 seconds. To cover the distance so quickly, the object reached an estimated velocity of 500 miles per hour. At such speeds, the centrifugal force of those tight circles would have crushed any conventional airframe into scrap. This high-speed performance mirrored the aggressive nature of the object that led Thomas Mantell to his doom. While Mantell pushed his P-51 Mustang to its absolute limit, the Lockborne object danced with effortless agility. 300 miles away from the crash site, the same silent intruder was making a mockery of military defense. Both sites reported objects that ignored the technical reality of mid-century flight, leaving investigators deeply unsettled. The correlation between these two distant encounters suggests a coordinated presence across the American heartland that afternoon. If the object at Lockborne was the same entity Mantell chased, its capabilities far exceeded any secret project. Even the stationary cube I encountered at Fort Campbell back 40 years later shared this same eerie nature. The Mantell UFO incident was no longer a localized tragedy, but a widespread demonstration of superior, unknown power. These simultaneous reports forced the military to consider that the skies were no longer entirely under their control. The air over Kentucky and Ohio had become a stage for a technology that simply shouldn't have existed. While one pilot fought for air, ground crews elsewhere watched the same impossible physics play out in real time. The sheer scale of this synchronized activity points toward a mystery far deeper than a single weather balloon. Years later, I wasn't a soldier on the ground anymore, I was just a passenger in the sky. In 2011, at 35,000 feet, I realized something was looking back at our commercial flight. I was traveling from Los Angeles to Atlanta when the ordinary journey turned into a haunting encounter. We were leveled out, suspended high above the darkened landscape of the American Midwest. I remember glancing out the window, expecting nothing more than the cold, empty void of the night. Instead, my eyes locked onto something that shouldn't have been there, pacing us with impossible precision. It looked like a pair of bright headlights, matching our speed perfectly in the thin air above. We were likely crossing over North Texas or Oklahoma when these silent observers appeared beside our wing. There were no wings, no blinking navigation lights, and no roar of engines from this mysterious visitor. It felt like a car pacing you on a highway, but there were no roads at this altitude. I sat frozen in my seat, wondering if this was the same mystery that haunted Mantell in 1948. The objects didn't drift or waver. They held their position as if tethered to our own commercial jet. What kind of craft keeps pace at cruising altitude without any visible means of aerodynamic lift or propulsion? My mind flashed back to Godman Army Airfield and the stories of the P-51 Mustangs chasing ghosts. Seeing it with your own eyes changes everything you think you know about the safety of our skies. The other passengers slept soundly, oblivious to the high-altitude dance happening just outside their windows. At 35,000 feet, the air is thin and unforgiving, yet these lights moved with effortless grace. It wasn't a weather balloon or a Skyhook balloon. It was something deliberate, watching in the dark. I wondered if the they I saw were the same entities that visited Lockborne Air Force Base. Why do these encounters follow us from the battlefields of Kentucky to the cabins of modern airliners? The light was constant and unwavering, casting a faint, eerie glow against the clouds far below us. I kept my eyes fixed on the horizon, waiting for the craft to peel away or disappear entirely. In that moment, the distance between the historical records and my current reality seemed to vanish instantly. The experience was as real as the stationary cube I encountered back during my time at Fort Campbell. Even now, every time I fly over the Midwest, I find myself searching the darkness for those headlights. It seems the mystery of the Mantell UFO incident isn't just a relic of the distant past. The ghosts of the Back 40 might still be out there, patrolling the high altitudes of the Midwest. It is one thing to read history, but it's another to see it pacing you through the clouds. We look at the sky and see different shapes, yet the behavior remains eerily consistent. Decades apart, these encounters reveal a pattern hidden beneath a shifting, ghostly veneer. Back in 1987, I stood at Fort Campbell and watched a metallic cube tilted on one corner. It hung there in the Kentucky sky, defiant and silent, mocking the very laws of physics. This strange, stationary cube seemed to exist in a space between our world and something else. But that solid, angular form was just one mask worn by this persistent, aerial mystery. Fast forward to 2011, when the metallic edges vanished, replaced by glowing points over the Midwest. High above North Texas or Oklahoma, these light sources behaved with a chilling, intelligent precision. They look like headlights in the void, pacing our aircraft through the dark, empty clouds. Why does the phenomenon transform from a heavy cube into weightless, shimmering points of light? Even Thomas Mantell faced a massive, metallic object that moved with a peculiar, measured grace. He reported the craft cruising at 180 miles per hour during that fatal pursuit. Curiously, that speed was exactly half the maximum capability of his straining P-51 Mustang. This deliberate pacing suggests the objects aren't just flying, they are watching and reacting to us. Whether a transparent cube or a brilliant orb, the underlying intent seems to never change. These things shadow our best pilots and our commercial flights with the same uncanny persistence. It is as if the phenomenon chooses a form that suits the era or the observer. In 1948, it was a tremendous metallic giant. In 1987, a sharp, geometric anomaly. By 2011, it had become a pair of lights, yet the rhythmic shadowing remained identical. We are chasing ghosts that change their skin, but never abandon their singular, haunting purpose. The Mantell UFO incident wasn't an isolated tragedy, but a chapter in a much longer story. My own sightings connect me to that legacy, bridging the gap between historical record and reality. We must ask if these objects are evolving, or if we are simply seeing different faces of one thing. Is it possible the visitor adapts its appearance to match our current technological understanding? Each generation witnesses a new mask, but the silent, stalking behavior remains the constant variable. The sky continues to hold its secrets, watching us just as intently as we watch it. From the cockpit of a Mustang to the window of a modern jet, the mystery endures. As we look closer at the evidence, the line between history and my experience begins to blur. Let us put the official Skyhook balloon theory under a rigorous, mathematical microscope right now. The simple math never lies, even when the official reports attempt to hide the truth. Claiming a balloon outran a Mustang is like saying a bicycle easily beat a racing Ferrari. Modern weather balloons manage to climb at a sluggish rate of only 11 miles per hour. This slow ascent hardly matches the high-speed pursuit that ended in a tragic Kentucky crash site. In his final transmission, Mantell reported the object was screaming across the sky at 360 miles per hour. How does a drifting gas bag compete with a pilot pushing his P-51 Mustang to its limits? Even with strong winds, a weather balloon typically reaches forward speeds of only 70 miles per hour. Does it seem possible for a balloon to suddenly triple its speed to outpace a fighter pilot? Colonel Hicks at Godman Army Airfield stated the mysterious object remained stationary for 90 full minutes. A stationary object cannot simultaneously be a balloon caught in the high-altitude currents of the atmosphere. Can a balloon stay perfectly still for over an hour and then suddenly vanish at supersonic speeds? Most weather balloons can only travel 125 miles before the thin atmosphere causes them to burst. Yet, the official Air Force report claimed this specific object somehow drifted 250 miles to the southwest. This official distance is double what physics usually allows for a balloon of that era or today. The military wants us to believe this craft defied its own structural limits to satisfy a report. When you compare the technical reality to the eyewitness testimony, the official story begins to crumble. We are asked to ignore the expertise of seasoned pilots in favor of a convenient atmospheric explanation. Every data point provided by the Air Force contradicts the physical capabilities of the Skyhook balloon itself. The gap between these numbers is exactly where the terrifying truth of the Mantell UFO incident remains. If the Skyhook was the culprit, then the laws of physics were suspended over Kentucky that afternoon. When the government's math fails so completely, the fog of war is the only thing left. Is it simple secrecy, or a calculated silence that defines the military's relationship with the unknown? In the military, we call it the fog of war, the confusion of the moment that never lifts. From the events of 1948 to my own time at Fort Campbell, the patterns remain chillingly consistent. We look at the Mantell UFO incident and see more than just a tragic pilot's final flight. At Godman Army Airfield, the air was thick with questions that official reports could not quite answer. The Skyhook balloon theory was offered as a shield, protecting the public from a far stranger reality. Yet, how do we explain the technical anomalies that defy every piece of known aeronautical logic? When Thomas Mantell's P-51 Mustang finally struck the ground, it carried a secret into the Kentucky soil. Investigators found that the cockpit latches were still firmly locked, a detail that haunts every investigation. If he was incapacitated by lack of oxygen, why was his canopy never even attempted to be released? This same sense of heavy, unexplained pressure followed me through the dense woods of the back 40. My encounter with the stationary cube at Fort Campbell mirrored the impossible stillness Mantell once chased. These aren't just isolated stories. They are threads in a tapestry of high-altitude deception and military dread. At Lockborne Air Force Base, other pilots watched the same defiance of physics play out across the horizon. We are told to trust the math, yet the math often crumbles under the weight of witness testimony. What are we truly willing to ignore just to feel safe in our beds at night? If you saw what Mantell saw through that canopy, would you have the courage to keep climbing? The military provides a structure, but it cannot provide a reason for the things that haunt the sky. This mystery is a puzzle where the most vital piece is the one we are told doesn't exist. The shadows at Fort Campbell and the ghosts of Lockborne remind us that some secrets remain airborne. We carry these experiences like shrapnel, small pieces of the unexplained buried within our own memories. Whether in a P-51 Mustang or a modern jet, the feeling of being watched never truly fades. The official paper trail ends, but the eyes of the witnesses remain open, searching the dark clouds. We find ourselves standing on the same soil, looking up at the same silent, terrifying possibilities. The cockpit was locked and the watch was stopped, but the story is still moving forward today. The official reports are public now, and the witnesses have finally spoken their hidden truths. I am still looking at the sky today, searching for answers that remain just out of reach. If you have seen something that defied the math, know that you are certainly not alone. Every veteran has a story from the back 40 that they never quite managed to explain. Perhaps you encountered a stationary cube while patrolling the dense and quiet woods of Fort Campbell. Do you believe the official explanation? Or do you trust the witnesses who saw it first? Your personal experiences help bridge the gap between official records and the chilling, lived reality. We have gathered the original eyewitness statements for those who wish to dive deeper into history. These supplemental readings offer a raw look at the Mantell UFO incident through ancient archives. Read the transcripts from Godman Army Airfield and decide for yourself what really happened that day. Every word recorded in those files carries the weight of a mystery that changed lives forever. What is your story from the shadows, and what secrets have you kept from the world? Share your encounters in the comments below to join this growing community of curious investigators. Subscribe now to join our next deep dive into the fog of war and its mysteries. Whether it was a Skyhook balloon or something truly alien, the truth is still out there. From the P-51 Mustang cockpit to the grounds of Lockborne Air Force Base, echoes remain. We investigate these moments to ensure the courage of pilots like Thomas Mantell is never forgotten. The legacy of these sightings continues to haunt the archives and the skies above our heads. The mathematical microscope may fail, but the testimony of our soldiers stands as firm evidence. History is often written in the margins of reports that were never meant for public eyes. Every comment you leave adds a new piece to the puzzle of the great unknown. Take a moment to explore the transcripts and see the world through a pilot's eyes. Your perspective is the final key to unlocking the secrets hidden within the fog of war. Stay curious and keep watching the skies for the things that science cannot yet explain. I will see you in the next investigation as we peel back more layers of history.